Anders Zorn was born in Mora, Sweden on the 18th of February, 1860. His father and mother met at a brewery that they were both working in Uppsala. They never married, so Anders grew up with his mom and his grandparents in Utmalen village in the Mora district. By the way, these Swedish names that I pronounce, I probably have a lot of the pronunciation wrong. When I mention Anders Zorn to other artists or students, most of the time they say, "Who's Anders Zorn?" At the turn of the century, when modern art was beginning to reach its zenith, artists like Anders Zorn, John Singer Sargent, Joaquin Sorolla were mostly being ignored. While they had successful careers, they weren't getting the recognition that they're getting even today. So thankfully, this quality of art is re-emerging as some of the best art created during the 20th century. Anders Zorn represents one of the best examples of an artist who uses a limited palette. We know that in most cases, his palette was ivory black, yellow ochre, and cadmium red. That was his palette in his studio. When he worked outside his studio, he used a few more colors. We know that he used cobalt blue because there were empty tubes of cobalt blue in his studio. But for the most part, the paintings that Zorn created are from a limited palette. Now, when he was 12, Zorn was sent to a school in Köping. His art talent was quite obvious. When he was 15, he gained admission to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Stockholm. When he first started school, he liked sculpture, but he soon turned to watercolors, and that became his sole medium until 1887. In 1880, he produced In Mourning and gained a lot of attention from that painting. And he also became popular with locals in Stockholm, and he was already being commissioned to create portraits. And also in 1880, he met his future wife, Emma. They fell in love and were engaged, but the wedding was still 4 years away. When Zorn was in his 20s, he spent 4 years in England and Spain. He was also building up a reputation as a portrait painter. In 1885, he married Emma Lamb, and for the next 10 or so years, they lived together in England and Paris. But during the summer, they would go back to Sweden. His medium was still watercolor during that period, and he was creating beautiful works such as The Thorn Bush, Summer Vacation, a series of watercolors featuring harbors. And one of the most popular paintings of his during this period was Our Daily Bread, and it was commissioned by the National Museum, and it was painted in Mora in 1886. In 1887, Zorn changed from watercolors to oils, and of course his background in watercolors created an immediate success for his oils. One of his earliest works in oils was Fisherman in St. Ives, and it was exhibited at the Paris Salon in 1889 and was purchased by the French state. For the next few years, Zorn really carved a place in history for himself by becoming an international artist and was recognized worldwide. During the World Exhibition in Paris in 1889, he was awarded the Legion of Honor. His most successful paintings were portraits, and many of his portraits were painted in America. He painted bankers, captains of industry, and politicians. He even painted a few presidents, Grover Cleveland, William Taft, and even Theodore Roosevelt. In the 1890s, Zorn started painting the genre which he has really become famous for. That's painting nudes in the open air. Notice the quality of light in these paintings. It's fantastic. When I say quality of light, I'm talking about the perfect balance of temperature between cool water and warm water. See how these blues and reds are the same value. One is cool and one is warm, and when they're next to each other like this, they vibrate. Look at the brush strokes on this baby fir tree on the bottom left. Notice how he captures the feel of wet skin. Remember, this is painted with 3 colors and white. This is a great effect here. The light from her midsection down is light that's coming in from a north window, so that's cool light. And the light from her midsection and above is warm light, and that's coming from a lamp that's on the wall. So you have 2 different kinds of lights working on the same painting. Cool blue light on the bottom right and warm orange light on the top left. In 1896, the Zorns moved back to Sweden, where he painted some of his most famous paintings. The Midsummer Dance, Dance in Gopsmore College, By this time, the Zorns were wealthy because of his art career. So they finally settled down in Mora and began to work on their compound there. Their compound is called Zorn Garden, and there's a museum and many old houses that he bought and restored and left to the country of Sweden as a gift from him and his wife Emma. Anders Zorn died on the 22nd of August 1920, and he was buried in the graveyard of Mora Church. Emma lived until 1942.